We are across the street in our film studio, and Zach's car has just gotten the front bumper all painted up, matched correctly to the rest of the car, and now we want to protect that, so we're throwing some PPF on it. Jordan is already underway, getting this knocked out, and this is Zach's personal car, so we're just throwing film right on the paint. It's never going to have to come off. We want a nice protective barrier because this car is going to get driven. We're actually hoping to take this down to Wookiees in the Woods only like 3 weeks from now, I think. Got a little bit of work to do. We got a Turner exhaust system. We've got an ST suspension. Jordan, you're the man here getting the job done. Kind of walk us through what you're doing right here.
Right now I'm just getting the bumper set up between the two first middle points.
Tell me like I'm a 10-year-old.
Okay. To use a pattern, the pattern will have certain alignment points, right?
Okay.
So to start this, you want to start in the middle, closest to where your alignment point, wherever your closest alignment point is. So
Okay.
I have these 2 points here. You can see there's a little tail there.
Oh, I see.
So that tells me this needs to go here, and
Yes.
this needs to go here.
Gotcha. We'll get close up to that.
So I need to get that lined up, and then once that's good to go, I can start reaching for my outside
Great.
points.
And you're talking about patterns because these are cut out with
this
a
is
plotter.
This is a pre-cut pattern from
For this specific bumper ready to go. Makes your job a lot easier. Everything's lined up. You have your alignment points. You
Correct.
start working off of that, and it's a much better product in the end. And so this is a slip solution. Is that what that's called?
Yep, it's
Okay.
just water and baby shampoo.
Okay. Just makes it easier for the bumper or the PPF to slide around on the bumper.
Yep, lets me position it where I want to without getting stuck somewhere and leaving a nasty mark.
And then what you just sprayed right there, that helps tack it in. What's that called?
This is gel.
Oh, okay.
you can
So
use
still
it-
more. Okay.
Yep, you can use it as like a partial tack slip solution.
That's really stretchy too. That's not, I would not expect that. So you're just kind of getting it anchored in some of the most important spots
and
to
so
get stretched around.
because this is an older pattern, I didn't want to just leave all of the edges just as is. So I had Henry extend this top edge, and the outside. So I made sure I had enough points or enough film to lay this.
So you guys customize existing files to make them more usable, more
Correct.
durable.
Yes. Now I could go in and full wheel-to-wheel bulk this bumper. That's not necessary when you can manipulate a pattern to do exactly what you're looking for.
That's awesome. So that's a really great ability that we have here at ESOTERIC, where not only do we have files that are going to get this really close to the finished product right off the bat, from the experience these guys have, they can actually modify the files to have better layering, better hidden tucked edges. These are going to last a lot longer, not get peeled up in a car wash or with a pressure washer, and they're going to protect your bumper for much more road debris and damage than just a standard file or a standard application.
Well put.
I'm learning as we go. I literally am learning as we go. I know just enough to talk about this a little bit. But then guys like Jordan, guys like Zach, Evan, even Evan back here. Look at this guy. All these guys too. I love, they're just always carrying these tools around. Jordan's even talking to us on camera while he's got that. These guys are multifaceted, multitasking. Just a great team over here.
During COVID, we joked that we weren't going to have any sickness problems because all of our guys, all they do is they
Just
splash
swap
around
tools
baby
and
shampoo and isopropyl alcohol. It doesn't get any more cleanly than that. Jordan, talk about why an older pattern isn't going to be as good as a newer pattern.
Film technology has come a long way. Pattern technology has come a long way. So, back when it was referred to as clear bra, people were only getting partial front ends. They were getting just the front facing edge of mirrors, kind of just like whatever the film would allow, because it wasn't great. Now that the film and everything's come a long way, you're able to get much tighter coverage, and it stays and looks good. I hope that makes sense. It's hard to focus.
Yeah, no, you're good.
I'm sure the material itself is coming. I want to get a good shot when he stretches this other side. That was just very impressive to see how much this stuff actually stretches. It's actually kind of molding and forming to the car. I always think of it as more of a stiff material, not just so flexible and durable.
There's somewhat of a sweet spot. I wouldn't say it's scientific, but when you stretch it too, it also thins it out. So there's a
You can actually get too
point of
much.
diminishing returns.
How long have you been doing this, Rick?
I've been doing this like around 4 years. I had a break when I broke my wrist, but let's just call it 4 years.
I'd imagine a broken wrist is pretty hampering doing
Yeah, you can't really do anything.
Jordan went snowboarding, came back with a broken wrist.
Yeah. Yeah, the tree one.
Hey, don't feel bad. I broke my elbow playing putt-putt.
Like, how did you?
I don't even know how you say playing putt-putt. I mini golf. Listen, 19th birthday, 20th birthday. I was in Florida, first birthday away from home. My brother and my cousin come down to visit me. That's when I was in tech school. Hit a hole in one over this really long hole, and it ramped a creek, and they had a rope wall that said like go around, don't go over this. Well, I try to jump over it, hook the tip of my shoe, fall on both my elbows in a concrete river, and just both my hands were numb. This one came back, this one didn't. Went to the urgent care, broke it.
That's awesome.
Is that awesome or is that embarrassing?
Depends on your perspective. I just embrace it, you know. Who else can say they've done that?
Well, honestly, the no contact makes it better.
Yeah.
Like, I was just playing putt-putt, broke my elbow.
Just broke it.
Just snapped it clean off. I was worried this bumper was going to be sticky. It's not. Fresh paint, the film wants to adhere immediately, just because it's the freshest surface that you could get, really.
Makes sense.
But I made sure that I wiped it down with a good amount of quick detailer just to make the bumper slick enough to where it doesn't pre-grab on me, but it's not hindering me sticking the film.
For those of you who didn't see the first part of the series, we just got this painted over at our friends at K-Steps. And basically the bumper had been previously worked on, didn't quite match the hood, and they were going to match it up. They found that some other paint work had been done as well on the hood. So they ended up blending the hood and the bumper, got everything looking really nice. So go back and see that video. We'll link it somewhere around here. Great company to work with. They are awesome partners to have, and they were step one in getting this whole process done and getting this car prepped to be a great looking, but also well protected and great performing vehicle so it can be driven on the road.
Kind of have to guess middle there.
So is this whole thing two pieces, or is this just the bottom part?
This is just the bottom. The bottom has different stretch than the top.
Okay.
So what they do is when this stretch doesn't match this stretch, they just keep it all one piece and then make you seam it here. Sometimes they'll do the bumper all the way around and then do the whole bottom and seam it somewhere out here.
Okay.
This is just how they decided to do it.
So then once you get this like really kind of stretched and everything how you want, then you have a different material you spray under there that kind of makes it adhere.
So the slip allows me to put stretch the film where I want it, place it without it pre-tacking on me. The gel is a good solution for tacking, but it can also, I'm trying not to overcomplicate it, I call it play in the tack. So what I mean by that is when you use alcohol, it starts the curing process immediately. It starts to neutralize the
You can't go back.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can go back and pick it up. The timer is a lot smaller than using gel.
Okay.
And I like to use both. So I'll use the gel in like the main part of it and the alcohol to help seal those edges as I'm working it.
Okay.
Alcohol is more used to finish the panel, whereas gel, I use that more during the middle of the install, stretching to different spots, etc. But with that being said, you can also install with gel. People install like with just gel.
Even just watching you stretch that around that corner and it's adhering, that is wild to see that it'll do that.
Yeah, and that's
awesome.
the combination of me using the gel to just work that little tension zone, and then the alcohol is on that edge to help when it gets down. There's nothing having it come back up, which is what the soap would want to do. The soap doesn't want to stick, so.
It's unbelievable too. You cannot even tell there's film there. If the edges are tucked under the headlights and you have these edges tucked, you guys can probably tell. I can't tell yet. I'm sure I'll learn the signs, but that's wild.
Yeah, there's still some curing that's going to happen. There's still moisture under there, and over the course of the next couple of days, it will evaporate through the film, which is a permeable membrane. So it'll even look better just in a couple of days.
Is that kind of like what happens with window tint when they say there's like a little bit of fogginess that evaporates out?
It evaporates through the film and out. That's why you don't want to roll your windows down right when you get your windows tinted. Jordan, we asked Evan yesterday, what's your favorite car to wrap?
I don't know. I don't like to wrap the same thing over and over. I don't know if I necessarily have like a favorite. Like I would love to do it. Some people would say Teslas, like because they're easy. those cars are almost like too easy where it's not enjoyable. Like you're just kind of going through the motions.
Yeah.
I'd probably say the Singer DLS was fun to do, a fun bold project. But obviously, I'm not going to be getting those very often.
Like 25 in the country,
Probably
in the
not
world.
going to get another one ever. So I would say that I definitely had a lot of fun wrapping that car. This might sound like a weird answer, but C8 package on a Corvette, that's like a perfect 2-day project. I've done so many of them, I can kind of just do them on autopilot.
That's awesome to hear. Who were we talking to yesterday? I was surprised,
Zach.
but yeah, Zach was saying the same thing, that they're actually not that hard. They're such a visually complex looking car. You'd think it'd be really difficult, but
It just takes some time, just a lot. Like on a full wrap, there's just a lot going on. I don't think any of it's hard. It's just a lot. Least favorite. Let's see. I have a couple panels I can think of.
What are they?
Convertible top with the convertible engine cover thing on 458. The pattern just isn't great. So you can manipulate it, but just the base pattern gives you a really not super fun starting point. That's not really a panel you want to go in and try to bulk. That's no fun. So that's one panel I can think of that I'd rather not do again.
Debris under film. What's acceptable? What's not acceptable? What can you get out? What amount of debris after the fact would you just not find acceptable? And we pull the film.
Okay, so if there's any kind of hair from like a human, like not just like a really tiny piece of lint, like an actual hair, like I just plucked off my arm, panel's gotta go. That's never gonna fly. Now, granted, if you're working on an extremely complex piece and it's a white car, so any little piece of lint you would notice, say the piece is like, I don't know, you're on a G-Wagon roof and you get one little piece of lint up on top of the roof.
no one's ever going to see that. It's not going to affect anything.
You'll kill yourself trying to make
Maybe
sure that
damage
that's
the car.
perfect or whatever. So
And that's a huge piece of film
yeah,
for everyone to understand.
correct.
Yeah.
So it depends on the severity of the technicality of the piece as well as how big it is. I mean, ideally, you don't want to have any that we're not installing in a paint booth. You know, if you're installing in like a perfectly climate-controlled environment where there's no air movement and all that stuff, you know, you can have different expectations of absolutely no debris. Obviously, we're shooting for essentially nothing. Something very small. I can't even find anything equivalent on this bumper because this is a freshly painted bumper. Sometimes you can't see debris during the install if it's that small or if it doesn't make an airline.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing, I would say you don't necessarily have to worry about.
So that on this car, it's an older car, but it's got fresh paint of good quality on these panels because they've just been freshly redone the right way.
Yep.
What is a situation where you guys might say, hey, we're not going to put film on this because this paint isn't good enough quality, or that might damage the paint? Is there like warnings you would give a customer, or maybe a customer insists and says, I know if this film comes off, it could get damaged? Like what is some
So
of the
there's a
baselines
couple.
there?
You can look for clear coat failure. It's funny you mentioned that. I've had a couple examples. It's usually on like older cars where I'll mention to Todd, hey, this paint, you know, I wiped this paint one time with an alcohol towel. It's extremely sticky. I don't trust this.
And that means like the clear is not.
Yeah,
good shape.
it's something didn't cure right or it didn't have enough time. The point is, I'll raise a flag if I feel like it's not able to be wrapped, and so it could be sticky, it could be clear coat failure where you're looking like, kind of looks like adhesive or like glue, like flaking off. It can look like that. Cracking in the paint. If it's original paint on like a 40-year-old car, probably wouldn't throw film on it. It's not all I can think of off the top of my head.
Well, at the end of the day, if you're risking damaging the paint like in that such a way, it sounds like the paint probably would need to be redone before you're filming.
Yeah, and again, what are we doing? We're trying to protect the paint, not rip it off. Not everything needs film. As soon as you start to get into the, hey, we're looking at potentially pulling paint on this, that defeats the whole purpose. There's not going to be any paint to protect if you rip it off.
What are some other surfaces like? Would you ever PPF like headlights or emblems or?
Absolutely. So anything really with a clear coat, or like a top coat for sure can be wrapped. You can also wrap, obviously, pure metal on these Cybertrucks. The film will stick to just stainless. Really anything with a clear coat. The plastic trim, like the glossy trim on your interior, is the same materials as like your B pillars.
I was gonna say, I think I filmed some interior work as well, coating different surfaces that you're gonna be touching or getting fingerprints on or possibly scratching.
And obviously you have different types of film, like we have glass film, so you can put it on the windshield.
Do people ever request more than one layer of PPF? Is that a thing, or?
Yes, so I've done a Cayman or a 718. I did a wrap and a half, so you got a full wrap and then you got high impact on top of it.
That way, if just a big rock or something hits, you're just.
And then you can also, so there's what you would think what I'm installing here. This is 8 mil thick film. There is a 10 mil thick film, and I've installed that to a couple of cars, whether they were tracking the car or they just wanted that extra 2 mils of protection. So I've done a full SF90 in 10 mil. I've done a Porsche, some GTS. I don't know. They're all blending together. I actually think 10 mil has a better appearance, finish look wise, than the 8 mil. And I think it's because of the extra 2 mils of material. Gives it that extra depth and extra gloss, and maybe just being thicker, it's harder to see through all of the way, and maybe
Interesting. How about you guys can put, and it's probably common to put like coatings over top of this, like a ceramic coating to add, so you have this base super protective layer and then a sacrificial layer on top of that that's going to soak up little nicks and stuff or whatever.
Yep.
And then obviously the coating makes it easier to clean. The film, I would say, is easier to clean than just bare unprotected paint, but it's not going to be anywhere close to a coated panel.
Jake doesn't quite know about coatings yet because we haven't coated his car.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's coated some wheels,
Yet.
but he hasn't lived with it on his own car yet.
Oh, he
Yeah,
hasn't?
I'm excited.
It's pretty nice.
Let's say your paint isn't in the best condition, maybe not big scratches or whatever, but the clarity isn't amazing. If you lay a film over top of that, will it hide that stuff? Like to where, because I know when Todd was doing his S580, he was saying that they weren't going to go crazy with polishing because they're throwing PPF over top of it. Is that going to mask and kind of hide?
Yeah, PPF will cover most small stuff. It will cover haziness. It will cover like micro scratches.
You're essentially putting a clear coat on,
Yeah.
just not painting it on.
So it's not going to, if you can feel it with your fingernail, it's not going to cover that. It can kind of help blend it together, make it not so sharp to the eye. Stuff that you would accumulate just washing your car, every month or whatever.
Yes.
That kind of stuff's completely eradicated.
Or if you went through the drive-through car wash every day for like a year,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Maybe not that bad.
I was going to say, honestly, the film might...
Who would do that?
The film might give up.
Yeah, who would do that?
It was me. Just
Try some dingus.
yeah.
I'm carefully slicing the film not to touch the light or the paint. That's why you see me picking up the film with my other hand as I drag the blade carefully around the edge of this signal lamp.
So you're scoring, not cutting through.
On this example, I'm popping the film up and just carefully. So it's a little different rather than me scoring it and then trying to go and rip it on the score. So this is a little different. When I go to make the final trim, I will score the film and then rip it on the score line.
Have you ever wrapped any like unconventional, like a laptop or some random thing, or?
Yep. Actually, at the event 4, was that the last one? A girl got her phone case signed by Stradman.
Oh, so you had to protect it.
So I put some film on the back of her phone case.
That's pretty cool. Over top of the signature.
Yep.
That's neat.
So that was the most fun I had that day. I didn't expect to be wrapping a phone case covering Stradman's signature.
Did you sneak your own in there too, real quick?
My signature is the film I put on it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Besides that, I've done custom motorcycle boxes, paint matched motorcycle boxes for a guy's, was it Triumph? I don't think any strange items besides that.
Done some 6-figure watches.
This process is also probably a little quicker than I would have imagined. it's crazy to me looking at these complex, we have multiple curves going on, and there's a single piece of film over all of that without any air gaps, and it's clinging tightly. It's awesome to see that happen.
What I'm doing now is just going over all the edges, flushing all the slip out of them, any gel potentially.
So this is like kind of your almost final pass, just making sure the bulk of everything's down and good.
I'm making sure I didn't leave any big patches of moisture behind, anything, piece of debris, just something that's not supposed to be in the film. So I'm also feeling with my hand. The hand will feel better than my eyes can see over this moisture.
Once this is done, is there like a period of time that you need to let it sit before you would wash it, or let it get out in the rain or anything like that? Or is it basically good once it's done?
I'd say once I have everything heated down, trimmed, and it's done on my end, I would say ideally you want to give it 24 hours to fully cure and set on the car before you go introduce it to, especially like cold weather.
Yeah.
If you threw this out in the middle of the summer and everything's tidied up, it's actually going to speed up the process.
Okay.
It's actually going to help cure it.
Heat is your friend.
Yep. Not too much heat. That's the other trick is during summer, if you just installed something, you can't put it outside because if you have moisture that's facing the sun, it will boil the film.
Oh,
it will literally boil that.
So it's actually going to separate. The pressure will push it up.
Yep, and it looks not great. And then same thing in the winter. If you leave moisture under the film and it sits outside and it's cold enough, it'll freeze. But of course, once the film is fully cured and there's no moisture there, the film itself can resist those temperatures, but not the moisture.
So working here, has it built up a big confidence with you with some expensive, intimidating cars compared to when you started?
Yeah. I remember when I started, I said what I wanted to be able to do was walk up to any car and feel relatively confident that I can tackle it. I mean, there's still some cars where I'm like, I can just look at the shape and just know it's not going to be a walk in the park. That's also part of the fun of it, is figuring out that puzzle. And then once you do get it, you can be proud that you figured it out.
So when you're like seeing new car releases or announcements, do you see a car and then kind of you're already looking at the curves and stuff and thinking, oh, that's going to be fun to wrap?
It changes the way I look at cars. Any car I'm looking at in a parking lot, there's some of these like everyday commuter cars, like some Toyotas, where I would not want to wrap the rear bumper. The rear bumper would be terrible. I mean, it's got to have relief cuts or be multi-pieced, because some of these are like absurd looking with the curves and the crazy like conches.
I completely get that. In-depth industry knowledge can ruin you. Working at P3, knowing some of the communication networks in some of the cars.
Yeah.
You just didn't even want that car anymore because you knew what style network it had. And it has nothing to do with the performance of the car, but with your products that you're working with every day. And you just know that one's not nearly as good as this one.
Yeah, or like a certain panel, you don't like doing it. Like it's a hard panel to do. You start to not like that car as much because you associate it with something negative.
And you can't unlearn it.
Yeah, and you can't unlearn it, you know. We're all biased as much as we try not to be.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna have some bias. I try not to look at cars for how easy it is to wrap them. I try to separate my work from the pleasure of working on these cars.
What kind of car do you have?
I just have a Civic.
Do you have any film on?
Civic hatch. I have one driver fender testing out the Kamikaze film.
Oh, nice.
Other than that, no.
Okay.
Because I wrap cars 5 days a week.
You don't want to do it on the weekend, too.
Yeah, my car's too far gone. By the time I learned how to install film, it was like, do I even want to invest this time and money into this?
Sure.
So, unfortunately, besides that one fender for testing, there is no other film. I should have at least done my B-pillars. B-pillars just look like crap after a year. Doesn't matter.
Just because of the finish that get like drier.
I mean, it's so soft. It doesn't matter what you're using to wash your car. Like, it's going to scratch. It's just inevitable. I think film for B-pillars should be like a
mandatory,
like a requirement. Yeah. Oh, and the interiors too, especially when your hands are all over that stuff on the touch points.
So you're just drying all the excess materials out?
Yep. I'm just literally removing all of the moisture. So that way I can go around and heat all the edges down and there's no moisture interfering with that process. Once the film is on, you no longer need the moisture. You don't want it.
Yep.
It's not going to let the film stay. I mean, I'm obviously just wiping the main bumper to pull all the moisture, but I'm mostly focused on
areas like cracks, whether it wants to hide up in here, in by these signal lamps, the back side of the bumper where the plastic meets, and that just expedites the curing process. And the faster you can get this bumper curing, the faster it'll stick, the faster it'll be ready to go, the more likely it is for the film to hold long term.
Moisture is your friend until the film is in place.
Correct. Yeah, I try to get the film to start its process as soon as possible. I found that's netted the best longevity. I have very, very few comebacks, so I think it's working.
That's good.
It must be working, or we're gonna keep doing it. Awesome. Now we're probably at that point. I can heat this down.
Is this something underneath?
That's a moisture bubble.
Okay. Oh, I think I can see it a little bit now. It's crazy. I mean, you just can't, even down here, like you have to look for the seam. And since everything's rounded and there's no sharp edges, even these spots where the support comes up, you just can't, it just blends right into the color. Yeah, that's so clean. I would never imagine you could get it that clean. If I see this seam now, I'll appreciate that because now I know why it's there and what it took to get that to meet up perfectly. Got the Michael Jackson glove on now?
Yep.
Okay. Yes.
That's on camera.
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes.
That's why I did it.
I think our thumbnail is going to have to be a...
Oh, no.
Yes.
Something like
yes. Ow! Shimon.
For a BMW, there's no oil drips on the bottom.
Yeah, that means it's out.
It means there's no oil.
Yeah, it's out of oil, Zach. I hate to break that to you. So for...
No, Jake, it doesn't smell like gas at all.
Dude, that's frustrating. You got me there. Just like my talking on screen, people think I'm a great mechanic. Your cylinder head, we'll see if it holds on or not.
Yeah, Jordan, if he offers to do any mod work on your Civic, just maybe look for someone else.
You maybe look for Braden instead.
I'm just using a tool to carefully, I don't really have a lot of access here with my finger. I'm just carefully putting down this edge here without any creases or bubbles.
And then at the top, do you just, where that excess, you pinch and kind of cut it out and fold it shut?
Yep. So it's going to come to a point where it's literally just going to come to like this pinch flat or whatever. And I'm going to do a relieve off and stay as close as I can to this and then just zip it around here.
And that'll be a good adhesion, least likely to come up with water and everything.
Correct.
Awesome.
You know, I try to cap as many edges as possible, but some edges just aren't necessarily worth capping. You're not going to gain very much for a higher chance of failure. I'm just going to go do that to a couple edges because it's still wet, so I'm not going to be able to do anything significant.
So I mean, we're getting pretty close to the end, right?
Kind of. Yeah, I'm just kind of going around and just doing, if I can, I'm tackling it while I can.
Sure.
So I'm seeing if this wants to go around like I did, and it did. I just need to come back and fully finish it, but that's 95% done now. At this point, it's going around, finish trimming off like any little reliefs around these signal lamps, around this, the backside of the wheel wells, installing the little tow hook piece. There's little seam pieces for this right here. So I need to install those next after I finish heating this down while the other stuff dries.
Jordan is now wrapping up. He's kind of taking us through the process. As somebody who doesn't know a ton about this yet, it's awesome to be able to get right in depth behind the scenes from the people who are doing the work. It's really helping make a sense of a lot of this in my head. And I've enjoyed getting to know Jordan a little bit through the process. Thanks for your time, Jordan. You're multitasking, getting this done. I think we've only been here like an hour and he's got like 90% of this whole bumper done. It's pretty amazing. So now we're fully protected on our brand new paint. Whole front end's ready to go. We're gonna have some mods coming up shortly, so stay tuned. Be sure to subscribe, check us out, and watch out for those videos. We have a lot of other projects going on as well. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.